Well, hello everybody. I'm Richard Spencer. I'm running for City Council in Paris. Thank you for coming today and spending time here. You could literally be doing anything that you need to do on your land or anything, but you're here and it counts, and I really appreciate your time. I have nothing prepared to say because I kind of wanted to listen to what everybody had to say. There's some Paris voters here. There's some residents of Paris that can't vote, but they're very concerned about what's going on with their city. I'm very concerned about what's going on with the city. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm not originally from Paris, so I'm one of those bad outsider people that everyone here kind of grins about, mumbles about. I am from Southern California. I was born and raised there, but I don't plan on bringing California here. I don't agree with California politics. That's another reason why we left. I'm a pretty simple guy. I didn't want to get involved in politics. I actually hate politics. I don't like government. I feel like government doesn't offer solutions for most things. And I'm not here to create a government solution for everything, because there is no government solution to everything. Most of the time, government puts Band-Aid over Band-Aid over Band-Aid, and then 30, 40 years down the line, we realize, oh, that was a mistake, we probably shouldn't have done that. And I'm not here to add more rules. I'm not here to do any of that. I'm here to make life easier and more enjoyable for the residents. I'm a resident. I would benefit from that too. And I just want everybody to know that I'm your neighbor first. I would be a council member second. At the end of the day, we're all neighbors, and we all kind of have to just work together and get along, because there's bigger issues to deal with than, history and whatever people dealt with. And talking to people here, it seems like there's still issues that people have with each other from high school. There's a lot of back and forth and a lot of fights and a lot of disagreements, and from talking to people walking around and handing my flyer out, it's been pretty eye-opening to hear what everybody has to say about the council in Paris. So a little bit more about how I got involved, because again, I hate politics. I don't like dealing with government. The city council was going to raise water and sewer rates over 300%?
Up to that and over.
Yeah, for some businesses and people. And while I'm not anti-raising the rates if it covers their costs, because it's a utility provided to all of us, I just want to know the reasoning why. And they would never provide a clear reasoning. I communicated to them that I was going to push back. Clint and Caren pushed back and got them to rescind it, essentially, because it was done illegally, without notification, without proper notification. I was the designer of their website. Their website was functional at the time. They were supposed to put that notice on their website and neglected to do it. By not doing that, it's illegal. And so, if they want all the residents to follow the rules, well, the state has rules for them to follow too. And I think it's important that the council follows those rules. If they want the residents to follow the rules, it doesn't make any sense that they can cut and go around all those things. So we pushed back. We got an attorney. I've been told, are you the guy that sued Paris? No, I didn't sue Paris. I've never sued anybody. I don't want to sue anybody. I don't want to have to sue anybody. But sometimes government will continue to do what it is if nobody pushes back. And so that's what we did. We got an attorney, we sent a very powerful letter, we pushed back. And they crumbled back. They rescinded their order. There's no raise. They were going to raise it again like a couple weeks ago. Dylan was there. Dylan's been asking for a formula on how they get their sewer rate for years, and they just never have one. So they don't know where their sewer rate comes from, how they get to the amount. They just raise it kind of whenever they feel like it. I guess maybe Dylan, I scared them with the attorney, and now they're going to come up with a formula. So that's good. Sometimes you kind of have to push and get what you need out of it. I don't like fighting. I don't think it always accomplishes things, but I didn't come here to fight. But I'm also not going to be pushed over. And there's a lot of people here that raising rates would really negatively affect. A lot of seniors who are on budgets that they can't afford to pay more. And I think we just need to work with people more than toss them aside. The solution isn't always more money. Sometimes the solution is work together and don't worry about it. There's always going to be money. There's always going to be some kind of income coming into the city. As long as there's taxes, there's income coming into the city. So I think we just need to work together. Before I really hand this over to anybody, I want to thank Clint and Caren for allowing this venue and having us here. And I want to thank my wife for all the wonderful goodies she's baked. Please take some home, because there's a ton. And I want to thank you guys for coming in and being willing to spend time here, ask questions, share your concerns with me. I learn a lot more from listening to what you guys have to say than going on and on. So, anybody want to have a question or concern, please.
I will voice my concern.
Please.
My husband just passed away in August, and we had a funeral on a Saturday. The projected amount by the funeral home was $450 to dig a hole on a Saturday. Talk about kicking you down. We were charged $750 to dig a hole. $750 to dig. Almost double the projected amount. And they said they will charge you more on a Saturday, possibly $450. Possibly $450. The mortuary was appalled. I was appalled. And I thought, kick them when they're down. Kick them when they're down.
Was that a city charge?
Absolutely. Paris City
Paris City.
charged me $750.
Could you speak in the mic? I think you're back here.
So the issue I'm hearing, and my wife spent a little time as assistant city clerk. I'm aware that Saturdays and weekends they charge more because usually the workers aren't working that day. It's they say that, but Robert's always working. He's always out.
I could have rented. My son is an excellent, expert machine operator. I could have rented the equipment and dug it and buried it myself for less than $750.
And I think that the city probably wouldn't allow an outside
No,
person
they
to
won't.
dig.
They won't even allow anyone outside to set your monument or your headstone.
Let me ask you a question. When they sent you that bill, did they offer you payment? Did they say it's this much, but if you can only pay this much right now? And see, those are the kinds of things that I think the city needs to work on. Besides the communication issue, the lack of communication is they need to understand what you're going through. You're a resident, lived here for quite some time. We had a funeral as well recently, and that's not a fun thing to be kicked down when you're already down. If I was in the mayor's position, I'm not in the mayor's position. I'm not even running for mayor. I'm running for council. I think offering payments is if the charge cannot be removed or down, put down at all, then offer payments. I think that's a solution, and it's been done for water. As an example, when I live in the trailer that my parents own, and for years they shut their water off because I believe back in the day when they switched to the new water system with the tank, it increased the pressure, our pipes burst in the trailer, there was damage done. My parents probably could have held the city liable for that. They didn't. They asked for it to be shut down. Well, it had been shut down for decades. And when they came back, they decided they were going to redo the trailer. The city decided to charge them $6,000. in backwater fees, even though the water was shut down, no one was using it for decades because of what they did. My mom's more of a negotiator than my dad, so I think she negotiated payments out of the mayor. But he wanted to charge a flat $6,000 right then and there just to get the water back on. I don't think that's right. I just talked to somebody who came before you all showed up, who doesn't live here full time, and he has to pay his water every month, whether or not he has to use it, and he has to pay to shut it down. Well, even if he pays to shut it down, he still has to pay the water bill. He was told by the mayor that's because it pays for the pipes. No, it doesn't. Pipes were paid for through a grant. They were previously paid for. The current water payment is to pay for your current water use. The problem is Paris has no meters. Not a lot of people want meters. I personally don't want them. But I think if you have a meter, you should be allowed to shut down, open it up whenever you want, because we can tell when you're using it. We can look, we can check and see. That should be a voluntary thing too. We should be able to work with people. Instead of being so antagonistic to each other, there are solutions if you're just willing to work. I don't think that there is an ordinance that says you can or can't do payments. I think it's completely up to either the mayor or how people are feeling that day.
It costs maybe $750 to dig that grade.
Probably not.
It absolutely is impossible.
I don't think they paid Robert
Unless the
$700.
unless the city's paying a whole lot more than I think they are.
I don't think it costs that. But even still, if that is the cost legally, I think they should be allowed to take payments in however form they want. I think that's better.
Or at least publish their fee schedule.
Yeah.
Because same kind of thing, I'm an outsider, but we had a water line break during the winter, this past winter. Robert had to come shut it off at the street. I was charged an exorbitant amount for the 5 minutes it took him to stick the rod down there and turn it off.
Do you remember how much you were charged?
Yeah, almost $300.
They're
And
not paying you
And,
that
and then
much.
they told me how much to turn it back on, but by then we figured out where the hole was and found our own pipe and turned it back on. But at least if there was a fee schedule, then we would know that's what it is, that's what they're gonna charge. I'll look, for alternatives.
Well, I think if there was a fee schedule, the problem is they need to stick to the fee schedule and not overcharge.
Right, but at least you know what they're gonna charge you. You don't get surprised, maybe $450 and then the bill's $750. And I was desperate. I mean, I would have paid anything to get the water turned off and spouting out in front of my front yard when I'm 300 miles away.
Makes sense.
Devin and Melissa had their water rate.
That's true, I remember.
And they could not find a single person in the city that would answer their phone to call to arrange to have it fixed. And they said, you can't fix it on your own, but I don't know who to tell you to call. And so Devin fixed it himself. He says, it's not much I can do. I can charge him for, sewer for having my home flooded, but there's no one available at any number to contact after hours.
Yeah, and I believe when I talked to him about that, he said that he even called Brad. He found Brad's number. Brad didn't answer. Nobody came. And I think he didn't find Robert's number, so he wasn't able to call Robert directly because he lives right around the corner from you. But if you can't contact anybody, and I've been told in city meetings that, if you have an emergency, call 911. Well, what's the sheriff supposed to do about water main leak? So, granted, I understand we don't have a 24-hour city staff that works, but in case of emergencies,
Yeah, have a number that's available.
there should be an option available, I think.
There's probably a few people around that would even volunteer to go learn where that could, I could go turn the key. Yeah.
They don't even know where my main
Shut off
go
is.
and do it.
They don't even know where my main shut off is. They cannot find it. Don't know where it's at. So if I have an emergency, it can't be turned off. They don't know where it's at.
Well, I know
And they looked.
for out of towners, also, if they are coming back up or if they have an emergency, they will be charged a larger fee to go turn it on, especially if it's a weekend.
It seems things are not being enforced across the board equally. And it seems like communication is lacking. There's a lack of communication. There is a lack of transparency. And that's exactly what I'm running for. I want government to function as intended. Completely transparent, you know what's going on, completely effective, and based in service. If our minds are based in service, similar to if you were to serve in church, then you have that in your mindset when you do things, and you understand that I'm here to serve, not put money in my pocket. I'm not here to make secret connections, or it's not about that. It's about service. And I think as a country, we've probably lost track of that. We've lost track of that locally in our leadership. I've told my wife to remind me every day that that's what it's about, is service. So that's all I want to do, is try to do that for the residents here. I didn't grow up here, kind of wish I did, because everybody here seems just like really great people, really nice individuals. I've received more offers for help and kindness here than I ever did growing up in California. And that touches me, and that makes me want to reciprocate and give that back. So, because I wasn't ever going to get involved, but this whole water thing kind of started, I guess I have to get involved now. I have to put my money where my mouth is and actually do the thing that I say I'm going to do, or do the thing that I say I stand up for. You have a question?
Just a question. There's two of you, there's going to be 2 seats filled on the city council. There's 5 members of the city council.
There are 5 total.
Pardon?
5 total.
5 total. Would another council member have run into he came in with really good ideas, but kept getting outvoted all the time because of the status quo? How do you think you're going to improve that?
I actually talked to my wife about this a while ago. If there's something that I'm very passionate about and I'm unwilling to budge, one thing that I've learned is that the city council is not actually run properly. To run a city council meeting, you're supposed to follow what's called Robert's Rules of Order, which is parliamentary procedure. It's the Bible for running political meetings. You have to follow that. You're supposed to follow that. They don't even know what that is. On day 1, I'm going to bring them a copy of it. If there's something that they plan on doing that I believe is wrong and I don't have backing from the city council, I'm willing to filibuster. I'm willing to not stop talking until they give up their votes. And the meeting cannot end until I cast my vote. If I have to wear a diaper, yes, I'll have to wear a diaper. But I'm not going to not push back. It's been effectively used in Congress. It's been effectively used in the Senate. You can use it here.
Might I suggest that we as a community need to vote in people who represent the community. So if they don't want to do what's best for the community, the next election, make sure they're not that.
I agree. And sometimes you actually don't have to
That's
wait.
our obligation.
You can recall. Recall only takes 26 signatures of voters to start. You turn that into Amy Bishop, there's a special election called, you can recall whoever you want. 26 signatures, there's 324 voters in Paris. I bet you can find 26 people that agree.
And I can't vote, unfortunately, but understanding, having good minutes from a city council meeting so you understand what issues were discussed, and if there is a vote taken, who voted for what, so they're accountable for their vote. So that you can,
That's actually the legal obligation. They're supposed to take roll call vote each
but we
vote.
never know, and you're lucky if you get the minutes 4 months later to figure out, and so if you know how they're voting though, you can at least have a conversation with them and say, why did you vote that way? But it has to be more timely than every 4 months.
I agree. I think I talked to you, David, about that when they vote, they need to explain why they voted that way. And I hope to do that. One of the things that I'd like to improve is I'd actually like to get these meetings recorded like this and put them right on YouTube. It's free. If somebody has a cell phone and a mount, you can do it. I have a webcam. They're more than welcome to borrow it. They don't even have to pay for anything. I'll help them do it. I want these meetings online. The reason why I want these meetings online, it shows that there's a record of how we voted, why we voted, who voted for what, and then if somebody lies, says they're going to do one thing and then they do another, that's how the people hold them accountable. There's a record online, you can't erase it. And I think that that's part of the transparency. We need that level of communication. Government needs to be that accountable to people. No deals in the shadows, no communication. Technically, people on the council aren't supposed to communicate with each other until they're in the meeting. They're supposed to communicate with each other at the meeting. If they communicate prior, it has to be an official communication, either through an email, something that can be recorded and placed in the city records.
So is it legal to record those meetings and put them online?
Of course it is. Yeah.
They can't, there's no ramifications. to
There's
the
no.
individual who does it.
And any resident here can go and record it. I would like to bring that to the council if I serve. Even if they say no, I'm gonna record it. Because you can't stop me as a resident to record the meeting. You're violating my First Amendment right. And you can go into any government building and record. You have every right to do that. If anybody ever tells you you don't, that's been held all the way to the Supreme Court. You have every right to record. And it's for your safety and it's for their safety. And it's for both of your accountability so that you can't lie and say they did something they didn't do, and they can't lie and say you did something that you didn't do. It's beneficial for both parties. The only reason you could want to hide your meetings is because you have a reason to hide.
Secret agenda.
I was just going to say, for several months, I reported on the Paris City Council meetings for the exam. Then my husband got ill, and I was not able to be here in Paris. We were down in Utah where he was going through cancer treatments. But I have to say exactly what Richard has been saying, that the Paris City Council meetings were often I don't want to be honoring or unkind to anybody, but the first 2 or 3 times that I wrote for the newspaper, they wanted to see what I had written before it was published, because they wanted to approve that, to make sure that I didn't write anything that would make me bad. So it's extremely important that everybody in the town, in the city, little city of Paris, knows what's going on. And we should not be complacent and just say, oh, they're taking
Yeah, they will take care of it, but the way that they see fit. And I feel like part of growing up in California and not agreeing with the politics around me taught me that you can't be complacent, because when you let off the gas, somebody's pressing their brakes. You have to become engaged. You have no choice. And this town is so small that if you're not engaged, you'll never know what's happening. I'd like to change that so that there's more open communication with the council, more approachability. I think as a council member, you should be approachable, you should be accountable, you should be friendly. Something that we talk about, Clint, is when there's a new business in town, the first person through the door should be the mayor or a council member, and just say, hey, welcome. Thanks for coming here. Thanks for taking a chance on Paris. Is there anything we can do to help you settle in? You know, are you planning on hiring anybody? Can we get the word out? Instead, it's roadblock after roadblock after roadblock, and then pushback, and that communication becomes frayed and tangled. It's much easier to just start off on a friendly foot, become approachable with people. Look, I'm not going to agree with everybody on everything. I'm not here to tell everybody what they want to hear. Sometimes you have to tell people what they don't want to hear. And that's part of doing this job on council, is you have to be willing to tell the truth, even if it's not fun. There's a lot of issues that the city faces, with water, with sewer, and it can always be kicked down the road. But if we want to solve the problem, we need to just be honest. I mean, first, when the water issue happened, we heard, well, there's not enough water. And then we heard, well, there's enough water, but the tank's not big enough. Well, that's not the issue now, because they're considering building a well. They can. They just need to pay for that. It always switches. When you talk to somebody who's being disingenuous, they'll tell you a sweet nothing first, and then they'll lie about it. And then when you try and confront them about it, they'll gaslight you and say, no, that's not what I said. Oh, no, I didn't mean that. No, I meant this other thing. We have to be vigilant. You always have to be vigilant, especially when it comes to government. Especially me. If I get elected, be vigilant with me. Hold me accountable. If I said something, remind me. I'm only human too. I make mistakes. I'm just trying to not make the same mistakes that they make.
Well, I have to hear myself on this. Anyhow, I'm Jane Eggers, and you may not live in Zone 3 for the school board, but I am running for that. But what I wanted to say is it's important that Richard has had a town hall. We used to have town halls all the time, and it's the most democratic way for the public to interact with someone, ask a question, and hear the answer while they're there. And so it'd been nice to see an ongoing process of town halls, that as you get into office, occasionally have a town hall to let people know what you're doing. We live in Mount Pillier. I'd like to see one there too. We have council members that are being changed there. But it's important to hear your voice and to speak about it. And if you've been writing for the paper and can write again, you should do that. Write about the meeting you were at today, what it meant to you. Because even though I'm not a digital person and I'm not online most of my life, I read the paper. And I like to see the paper, I like to hold the paper. But I like to hear what people have to say. And so I think town halls in the future would be an excellent way to continue that transparency. We thank you for having one today.
No, I appreciate you guys coming. I would like to do multiple town halls. I think, depending on what happens with the city hall business, whether city hall's going to be there, or it's going to continue to be here, move somewhere else, wherever it ends up being, I think it's important that we keep holding these kinds of discussions. There is a city meeting every first and third Tuesday of the month. I try to go. Missed a few. It's hard to go all the time, but I think it's important that if you can't go, that the city is willing to communicate that either through a video or something. I noticed at the planning commission meeting that I went to is they put it up on Zoom, and tons of people called in. Nobody was shouting, nobody was saying anything. It was actually very well organized, very well put together. Before anybody said anything, the commissioners explained exactly what issues they're dealing with, the purpose of the meeting, what they're trying to accomplish. I thought, wow, wouldn't that be great if city meetings went that way as well, where they say the purpose of this meeting is this is what we're trying to accomplish, this is what we'd like to do, open it up to input. Because maybe there's an idea out there you didn't see, you didn't think of, but somebody here did. Paris has so much talent and intelligence that it's glossed over by the people in city council. Many of the solutions can come from people here. If we just allow them to speak and listen. That's all it takes. Just allow them to speak and listen, take your own ego out of it, and do what's best for the residents here. I really do see things changing. I see growth happening kind of regardless of what we do. Growth is coming to Paris. In that commissioners meeting, all I kept hearing is Bear Lake has been discovered. Well, it was discovered a long time ago, but now it's discovered by the tourists. So as a small town and the county seat, we should be leading the way. how to manage a city, how to serve the residents, and how to capitalize on that tourism coming in to serve the full-time residents here. And I think that's the big issue. A lot of people, you're either on one side of the fence or the other. You hate tourists, you don't want them here. You don't want growth, you want it to stay the same. Or you love tourists, you love their money, and you want them to keep bringing it. I'm kind of in between. I'm a property manager. I hold no short-term rentals. It's only long-term. I get frustrated with tourists too. Our chickens were attacked this year by tourist dogs. That was fun to deal with. But I think the important thing is we practice forgiveness, we practice tolerance, and we're willing to share. If we're unwilling to grow, that growth is not going to be a controlled growth. It's gonna happen like a boom, and it's gonna flood us with a lot more than we anticipate. But if we control it and we work with it, we can make good things happen. We can keep Paris rural. We can keep it clean and safe. We just need to be willing to hear outside perspectives from people like me who are not from here.
One of the interesting things, I'm a history buff, and so as we were moving up here, I read a little bit of history again. I don't think people realize at one time that Paris was 1,500 feet.
Oh, what?
You know, it was the same size as Montpellier.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, to see Paris shrink, I think he's kind of sad because, you know, we need vibrant, living communities. So, glad to be here and hope to pitch in on it. So, that's it.
So I grew up here. We used to have a hardware store, a lumber yard, a drugstore, dentist, a doctor, a dry goods store, 2 grocery stores, 3 gasoline stations. We never had to go to Montpelier to shop. And I would love to see some businesses back here that could make it possible for the youth to stay instead of having to leave to get jobs. I left. I graduated from high school, went away to college, never came back until COVID. And then my husband and I moved back here. But I would love to see progress. And I know that people want it to stay rural. They want it to be peaceful. I do too. I love it here. It's my peaceful place. But growth is coming. And if it's regulated properly, we can all be happy.
I agree. I think we talked the other night about it. I would like to see the youth stay here. I would like them to not have to leave to find a job. You know, people will leave for school because there's no college here. I get it. You want to go to college, that's great. You should go pursue that. Idaho does have great schools to go to. BYU is just down there. I feel like if we work with the youth here, part of that is maybe engaging a youth council. Talk to the school, talk to the young men and women in school, get them engaged in politics early, and then if the city becomes more friendly to development, at least here on Main Street for businesses, they can put things together to offer incentives to create businesses with jobs. Full-time businesses that are all year, not businesses that are opened up from Memorial Day to Labor Day. It seems like the majority of businesses here are open just from that time to that time, and I get it. That's when you can make money. But there are full-time businesses here, and it would be nice if they could hire some of the young kids, train them. Maybe they want to be an entrepreneur. Maybe they want to start a business. I think we just need to work with young people more. We need to bring them in the fold, teach them the value of being here and serving this area, because then they don't feel like they have to go somewhere else. I mean, my dad left, you know. He was going to live here and raise his family, and then they went to California for more opportunities, and they got work. You know, I get it. I understand. The money calls. The money isn't everything. I understand you're not going to make $1 million here working for someone else. It's not about that. It's about, does that serve you in your life? Do the lessons you learn at work serve you? I can honestly say in every job I've learned something, and I've taken it with me to the next job. And I think that's more important. I make nothing. I'm a farmer. You don't make anything. And that's fine. And I feel more blessed today than I have ever felt in my life because I'm here with such good people, surrounded by people that actually do care and want to be kind to each other and want to serve each other. That is community. That's what we cannot lose. Whether Paris is 500 people or 1,500 people, we can still have that community as long as we keep serving and helping each other. And there's a higher purpose to this. It's not about what's in it for me. If you look at it that way, it's a zero-sum game. You're not going to be served well, you're not going to serve your friends and your family. But I think sometimes we have to put money aside, we have to think what's best for each other, what's best for my neighbor. How can I help my neighbor out? Are they sick? Do they need something? Let me help them out. And most people here do that. It seems like the council also has to do that. I would love to see the council members have tasks assigned to them to do. Because a lot of the time, during the meetings, there will be a council reports section of the meeting where each one of them have a task. And a lot of times they say, nothing to report, because they didn't do anything.
Isn't it ironic though that if you are on, or at least the schools I've been in, if you're elected into a, president of your class, they have to donate so many service hours into the community. Why do we lose that?
I think a lot of the time it has to do with apathy. Let me just switch it from what I've seen. So not to harp on city council too much, but until the big water thing happened, almost nobody would go to the meetings. Nobody. And so I'm sure that they talked about the water issue repeatedly leading up to it, and they've been talking about it. And then all of a sudden, the people push back and they say, well, we've been talking about it, how come nobody shows up to the meeting? It has to do with the time that it's at, day that it's at, not everybody's schedule lines up, totally understand. That's why I think we need to record it, we need to put it up. If you can't be there, at least you can be involved and know what's happening. You need to. Because if you're not there, but you can watch a video the next day or even just play it in the background and listen to what people are saying, if you have an issue, then you can go in and talk to them about it, or call them about it, or email them about it. It took forever to get them to start having an email list, just to start emailing people. The other day, they were gonna have a meeting on Tuesday. There were 2 council members that were sick. The city clerk actually emailed everyone that was on their list and said, hey, we're moving the meeting to Thursday. I thought, that's great. What a wonderful use of the email list. That's exactly what it's for. But I have not been getting the agenda. I have not been getting anything except for emergency notices like that. And that needs to stop. I understand that there's one city clerk. Well, maybe one of the council members needs to step up and help the city clerk sometime. And send some of those emails out or go out and talk to people. I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to talk to people. I'm willing to send those emails out. I'm willing to serve in any capacity I can to help with their lack of communication.
Why don't they reach out then and say, we need help?
Could be a pride thing. I don't know. I have no idea. I can't speak for them. But I'm willing to help. I've told them plenty of times. I'm willing to help. I built their website for them. I took no salary from that. That was all that went, to pay for the hosting. And in 200 hours of work in, and because they got basically shut down, they decided, let's close the website down because we got in trouble. So, you had a question?
Well, I went in and talked to the city clerk a while back, asked a couple of questions, and the main thing I asked was, what is it going to cost to put in the new city building? They couldn't answer that at the meeting. She says, oh, they know, she says, I put it in the minutes here. And I said, okay, what's it gonna cost? And about 10 minutes later, she was still clinking on the computer, and she said, well, I don't know, but I know what's in here somewhere. Well, they've got to get records straight so they can be through with people. Because now it looks like everything is sneaky, you know. But she claims that they did have an estimate, but she can't find it. She has no idea.
I went to that city meeting. The estimate is, this is the appraisal amount. For the current city hall, it's appraised at $160,000. Where the land is at and city hall sits down. For the proposed city hall location, not including the property that's on there now, the house that's on there, but just the land, $150,000. I believe that's at the taxable rate, not the market rate. This has been the sticky issue that a lot of people have come and talked to me about, is they don't think the valuation is correct, and they think this is more, and they're not in favor of a straight swap. You know, putting City Hall there and then basically trading it with whoever owns that property so that they would own City Hall. I was at the last meeting. Doug Taylor, who owns this property, has said if the swap goes through, he plans on doing nothing with City Hall, leaving it alone, which a lot of people are happy about. There's a few issues with City Hall now. The main issue is there's no ADA access to that building. And the building itself is not retrofitted for ADA accessible use. The bathroom walls that go into the bathroom are very thin. You can't fit a wheelchair through. The stairs leading up are at such a grade that putting a ramp in would not be great. I believe the quote that was said at a meeting for doing a ramp would be $160-something thousand, and that's before they even look at the foundation. So a couple who owned this modular home here that's on the corner, they actually owned it in Fishing. They were willing to donate it to a municipality in Bear Lake if they wanted to take it. That building actually used to be Bear Lake Regional Office. They would pay for the transport, they would pay for everything. A municipality just had to take it. The mayor felt that because that building is so low to the ground, they could just put it on a foundation. They could make it ADA accessible because the doors are wide, and we can avoid an ADA lawsuit. Yes, there are wheelchair users in Paris, and yes, they have threatened lawsuits. No one's filed one, but I don't think the city wants to play risky games with having a lawsuit or not thrown at them. I'm not sure. I'm in favor of a new city hall if it saves money. I'm not in favor of anybody destroying old city hall.
Well, I'm in favor of the new one, but they need to be up front with it. Why they dig the hole and then claim they're not going to use it? Are we going to use it for an ice skating pond or a swimming pool? You know.
Well, it'll be an ice skating pond if they leave it like that pretty soon. I think from what I understand, and I talked to Mayor Wilkes about this, he explained that money to dig was donated by a resident of Paris. The city has spent no money so far. I don't know how accurate that is, because if a city worker has done anything on that property, we have spent money on it. And I'm pretty sure permits do need to be pulled, even if they're just digging. I've heard Brad say, no, you can dig, you don't need a permit for that. You can dig anywhere on your property. But I'm pretty sure for certain things that you dig, you need a permit, because what if you hit a gas line? What if you hit electrical? What if you hit, there's a lot of things you can hit in the ground, damage, and we'll lose our water, we'll lose water pressure. It's not a good idea. I don't think they pulled permits for this. I personally, I'm on the fence about that myself, because what is the government going to say? I have permission, here, and then just hand themselves a permit? That's basically what it is. And if we're all trying to fight government bureaucracy, that increases government bureaucracy. But I understand that if they want the residents to follow the rules, they also follow the rules. I agree, they need to be up front. I still don't agree with those numbers that they said in the meeting, but I would encourage all of you to be at the November 9th meeting, which is an open public hearing before they vote. They're voting that day to proceed or to not proceed with the new city hall. If you go that day, it's an open hearing. You can say whatever you want. You should. You should say what you think. You should air your concerns. I'm still just a resident. I'm not on the council yet. I plan on going because I am concerned. Somebody suggested, well, why are we using Doug Taylor's land? They have a bunch of land down below town. Why don't they just put the city hall over there? I don't know why they don't do that. That's a good idea. I think that should be suggested. Another suggestion I heard from somebody is they should put it up on an open bid process so that if we do want to get rid of this city hall, at least open it up so that the public can bid on it. And maybe instead of just doing a straight swap, the city can actually make money on a sale for that property. My concern with opening it up is once it crosses title to another person, that person can now do whatever they'd like with City Hall. One of the suggestions I threw out there is open it up for a bid, put it up for a public sale, and add the covenant or restriction to that sale. File it with the county that says that building cannot be demolished. If it needs to be removed, it should be offered to a historical society in the area to be lifted off the property and moved somewhere else after a sale or after a title change. But they are unwilling to add a covenant because they say, nobody's gonna buy it because there's a covenant on it.
I would be against that myself. What are you supposed to do with a building that's falling down?
I mean,
The city will end up paying for
They'll
it,
end up paying for it.
and that's us paying for it.
exactly.
I don't want to pay for two buildings.
Yeah, and I understand that too. But I do not think that just saying, oh, trust us, nobody's gonna demolish it. That's not good enough to me. Because they've said, trust us on a lot of things. Trust us, don't worry about it.
That's true, that if you sell a building, you sell it and the owner does what he wants with it. You don't. I mean, a guy would be out of his head to buy a building and then you tell me, okay, you own the building, but you can't do anything with it. If it falls down, you've got to try to save it.
Well, the covenant that I was suggesting to them was not, you can't do anything with the building. It was, you can do what you want with the building. However, if you choose to demolish the building or move it, you should give the opportunity to someone else to do that before you do that, before you demolish it, before you remove it. If we demolish that building right away, or the next owner demolishes the building, whether or not they live here, they'll hear about it from people here. Trust me, they will hear about it. Because people like that building. Some people have been baptized in that building. My aunt's been baptized in that building. That used to be a stake center.
Oh, I don't think it should be demolished, but if you sell a building, you don't tell the guy what he can do with it. That's what I'm saying, you're getting out of hand there.
But they
Make a
can't,
hotel out
like
of
you said, if it's on a historical, registry, the house across the street from us, in the kitty corner, wanted to put a porch on the house. The city council told them it was a historical home, and they could not physically attach the awning, the roof, to the house. It had to be a freestanding structure. And so that's what they did, is it's not supportive, and it collapsed. The weight of the snow took it down, so they had to rebuild it again. But they were told that they could not change how that house was built.
And that's because it was a registered historical house.
That's what I understand.
If it's registered
And
with the
it's
state,
not-
you
it
can't really do
doesn't look like
anything.
any kind- If I drove by and say that's a historical site, but, so, getting it listed as a state historical, but, yeah, it depends on how it's listed as to whether or not you can add to it or tear it down or.
So, if it's listed as a state historical site or on the state registry, is it that you cannot change anything to it on the outside,
Yes.
but the inside you can?
I think
But it
that's,
has to be restored.
yes.
Everything is restored to its original. You cannot, I couldn't take a historical building that and go in and modify
Yeah, yeah,
everything on the inside. They want restored to how it originally
It's
was.
like how they did the Kirkland Temple.
Oh.
They restored it to its original. They can do work on it, but they can't change the building.
Makes sense. I mean, I don't know if City Hall's even registered. Is it? Probably not. So whoever buys it is going to be able to do what they want with it. I'm kind of on the fence. I feel like if somebody's going to buy it, it should probably be somebody from here. Purely because if they do something with it, they'll hear about it from people here. Maybe no covenant restriction. But if it's registered, then they can't do anything. I don't know if it's registered or not. We have to look it up and see. But I know that they're in a hurry to swap. They'd like to get this done as quickly as possible.
Before vote.
Before the hole fills in and before winter comes. And I get it. They want to get going on the other city hall. I'm not opposed to a new city hall. I don't think we should rush without hearing from ideas from everybody. I think somebody might have an idea that we didn't even think about. And I think that's important to hear. If you're not willing to hear what other people have to say, then why be in the office? That's the whole point, isn't it?
Kind of go back to a previous question. I actually got another one, but because I'm working on the city council and help there, me too. So hopefully we'll be working together on some of this stuff. But I used to live in Colorado, and there was a Trinidad there here about I'd say 5-6 years ago. They decided to do an audit in their town. They're trying to get some money up for some park or something. Somebody got in there and said, hey, let's do an audit. Actually got it pushed through. And someone that was taking money, some fees for like 10 or 15 years, put in some bank account that nobody knew was there. It showed up with like $6 million for a while. And they're like, where did this, the audit discovered it, I guess what I'm getting at is, they didn't know who was doing it, nothing. It just they knew what bank it went to, and they were able to get that money back. But I've noticed, like when I'm working, when you're talking about transparency, things of that nature, I think it has more to do with quality control. And that's what it is. It's like people know they suck at their job, they're really bad at it, and as long as they can hide it, they can be like, okay, this is okay, nobody will notice, and then continue doing it. I don't wonder if you have that problem. I have that problem with my employees at my store. I have with quality control. And it's like, as soon as they box up the merchandise and put lots of tape on it, I know there's something wrong. I know it. It's just human nature to do that. So I'm going to ask you, would you be interested in either recalling the mayor that's here? He sounds like he's kind of hiding a lot of stuff, or at least doing a city audit and like see where all this money's going.
So Paris actually does a city audit every year. It's required by law. And I'm not sure if they did it 2 years ago, but because of the water issue, they did it this last year. I was there when they did the audit, when the accountant came in and did the review, and I know that there was some misappropriation of funds. I know because I knew the previous city clerk and I knew what she spent money on. And the auditors still said, no, everything's fine. It's okay. They're on track to put good savings away. So what I would say is if we do allow another audit, we switch accountants. We go to another accountant that's not going to tell us everything we want to hear, but what we need to hear. And I think that I did bring that up to the city council here. How do we know we need to raise rates if we don't know where all the money is at? If we don't know where all the accounts are at? They have 9 different bank accounts. 9. Why? I understand that they have to have the general fund separate. Understand they have to have water and sewer separate.
Wow.
But 9?
Wow.
Seems a little much. They just recently switched from like Ireland to Zions or Zions to Ireland. They went back and forth from one bank to the other. I think all that needs to be transparent. They need to put the word out and say, hey, we're switching banks. Hey, we have this amount in this account, this amount in this account. That would prompt people to be a little bit more concerned when they put out notices saying, we're going to raise the water rates. Well, but why? You have $600,000 in this water account. Why do you need to raise the rates now? I think that's part of the transparency thing. I think they should do audits every year. I think that's just, it's required by law, it needs to be open. They're supposed to legally publish all those notices, where the money is, what account has this. I mean, they're not going to give you the account number, but they're going to tell you what's in it. That's just common sense for everybody to know where our money's being spent. I'm completely open to that, and people shouldn't be misappropriating funds like what you're talking about. I grew up in a town that they did do that, and we don't know where that money went. It just disappeared.
I think in Trinidad, Colorado, that whoever had access to the fund was going to sell everything out and go to Mexico. Anyways, one other question. This kind of concerns more state level kind of stuff. I'm not sure if Governor Little got all that COVID money spent. You guys know? Are they still sitting on that?
I'm not sure about at the state level,
Yeah.
but I know that Paris has COVID.
Paris has a job.
Paris has a bunch of it.
Oh, okay. So I'm looking at some ideas. It seems like people need some money for stuff like that. And so there's a meeting coming up Tuesday. The governor's sending a team out to talk to people, kind of like what we're doing here, about what they can do as a. Oh, is that Wednesday? Okay, at the Trail Center. And I was wondering if you'd commit to go and see if we can badger them into giving us some. They'll propose that in the state, legislature and everything, and to see if we can do some city grants or something with that money, if you'd be interested in helping with that.
I'm interested in going on Wednesday. One, I'm not a personal friend of Brad Little. I don't really like him as governor. I don't like most people as governor. I feel like people should regulate themselves. But that's a good question. I would like to go. I won't say yes for sure, but I'm like 99% there. I would like to go and talk to these people and see where their head's at. My concern mostly with them is we're so disconnected from Boise. When I was at the commissioners meeting, the planning and zoning meeting, one of the things that got brought up is District 5, which represents the 7 counties in this corner of Idaho. Now, we all collect in the state an extra 2% resort tax or hotel tax for all hotels, all short-term rentals. So if you have an Airbnb, Airbnb collects it, they remit all that money to the state. That's supposed to be divvied out according to where people are staying. It's not. So the way it's divvied out, this District 5 gets $7 million. Do you know how much Bear Lake County sees of that? $50,000 out of $7 million. And we have to write to the state for a grant to get that money. And it's limited. If we do get the money, we have to use it to increase tourism to Bear Lake. So then we have the same issue again, okay, deregulated or unregulated short-term rentals, then that increases more short-term rentals, and then we can't use it for anything else. I just went to that meeting because I'm involved in rentals. I'm interested in what they're planning on doing in the county. But to learn all this, that basically Boise ignores this side of the state, most of our legislatures think we're part of Utah. So they ignore us. Well, the solutions are actually pretty simple. Instead of regulating short-term rentals out of the market, which is illegal in the state of Idaho, we cannot do that. You actually aren't supposed to be allowed to regulate them, approve or deny them. They're supposed to be allowed wherever. That's state law. I believe it's Title 67. What we can do as a county to capitalize on this is propose a 1% resort tax on Bear Lake. That would not affect any resident. That would also not affect any owner of the short-term rentals. It's 1% additional on your hotel bill or your Airbnb bill. Tourists would pay that 1%. And that money would not be restricted. That money could come to Bear Lake and be divvied out in grants or in percentages to each town based on damage done by short-term rentals, to upkeep communities, to continue to work on the roads, all kinds of things. The solution is simple. It's absolutely simple. Nobody threw that idea out. Everybody's like, I hate short-term rentals. Some people are like, I love short-term rentals. There were probably about 40 cars here from Utah. And 95% of the people there were opposed to the current legislation as it was proposed. And that includes residents that were here. And they thought it was too strict. I mean, if people are telling you, we don't like this, we don't want this, but we have to find a solution, well, there's your solution. Tax people who use short-term rentals. Simple. The county will be able to keep that money. We won't have to remit it to the great state of Idaho. So, super easy. Anybody else?
Don't you have to have a permit to do Airbnbs here in Paris?
You do, and that's illegal. You're not supposed to have to go through a permit. Actually, in Paris City, you're required to buy a business license and pay the application fee to register your short-term rental. Problem is, Title 67 literally says you cannot treat short-term rentals as anything other than a residence. And what do? They make them buy a business license. So I guess if you're a resident here, you have to buy a business license because we're going to treat them the same. They're obviously not treating them the same. They're treating them as businesses.
Well, then they can deny it if you apply for it.
And that's illegal too. The law says you cannot deny. It literally says you cannot deny short-term rentals. That's state law, Title 67. It says that.
You can't.
They ignore it.
You what?
You can't regulate it.
Cannot
I know,
regulate.
but that's what
You
they
can
do
only
here in
regulate
Paris.
for safety, general welfare. That's pretty much it. So that's like what? Does this short-term rental have smoke detectors? Do they have carbon monoxide detectors? Is there a fire extinguisher? Great. Do we need to pay the county inspector to go and check that out? Someone here at the meeting has a short-term rental in Dingle, and they have a short-term rental in Utah. In Utah, there's a self-certification to approve your short-term rental. You include pictures of all the safety devices in your home, go room to room, take pictures, you submit it online, the next day, you get your approval and your registry. Boom. Done. Why is that not done here? It's not done because they want to approve or deny each short-term rental based on how they feel that day or
If they like it or not.
if they like you or not. And that's not following the law, that's not treating everyone the same.
They don't want their next door neighbor to have an Airbnb.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, I don't want my next door neighbor to have an Airbnb either. But I have no say what my next door neighbor does. What happens on that side of the fence is not up to me.
Unless they stink.
Yeah, unless they stink. And it's a nuisance.
Next door neighbor.
That's true. I love my next door neighbor. She's great.
You better.
Does anybody have any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys for coming. And Clint and Caren, and my beautiful wife, for all the food. Please eat. And Jane, you did mention you're running. TJ, you mentioned you're running.
Montpelier?
Montpelier
Oh, she's
School Board.
Zone 3.
Zone 3. So don't forget, if you're in Zone 3, vote for Jane. And if you're in Montpelier, you should vote for TJ. He's a pretty cool guy. Kyle Sullivan is also running for city council. He was just here, he left. My personal vote is for Kyle and myself. I'd like to see 2 new people unconnected to anything in the office just to see what we can do for the city.
Look for that